Hi again. In the previous lecture, we understood how do we store the file. In this lecture, we'll understand how do you read a file which is stored in HDFS. First of all, just a recollection of what we have discussed in our previous lecture. Let us say you have a large text file, and we know that this text file would be split into smaller chunks called as partitions with a block size of 128 MB, which is the default block size in HDFS. We know that any large file would be split into the smaller chunks of 128 MB before we store that data in HDFS. We have discussed the same thing. This whole file would be distributed across different data nodes. For the example purpose, we are using 4 data nodes here, wherein that we are trying to store 1 GB of file in 4 data nodes with couple of blocks stored in one node. Now that we know data is distributed across the 4 data nodes in this example, how do we really read a file? Any thoughts? Can you pause a video and think of? Yes. One and very important thing is we know that if we directly start reading the file from data nodes, we will be lost because we don't know the file is where, and within that file we don't know which part of the file is in which data node. We don't know. In that case, what is very important is we should be using the metadata to read the file. In this case, data node 1 has 2 blocks, block 1 and block 2. And we know that the address of these blocks would be there in NameNode. Means metadata of this file would be there in NameNode in a table format. In order to read a file, we need to use the metadata. That is one of the very important aspects. Now, how do we really go on reading it? What exactly happens when you submit a request to read a file? Assuming that you go ahead and send a read request. First and foremost thing, what happens is that request will be sent to the name node where we do have the metadata of all the partitions. Assuming that we are trying to read only small chunk of the data, not the whole data. Let us say you are trying to read only the block 1. How exactly it should happen? When you send a request, it will go and locate where exactly is the block 1 in the whole name node. Block 1 belonging to the file 1, because we wouldn't be storing only one file in a HDFS. It will be storing hundreds of files. What is also very important is along with the block, you need to identify that with the file also. File and block, and those two combination would be there in which particular node. By referring to the name node, we'll get to know about that. Now that we located where exactly we got the address of the block, where exactly our block is located, then the system will read the contents from the block in a data node. What essentially I have done is you have sent a request to read a file 1 block 1, means block 1 from a file 1. Then it will hit the data node where the data is present, and it will try to read the content from there. Essentially, what is happening in a summary is user will send a request to read, that will be referred by a metadata in a name node. By using a metadata, we get to know that where exactly is the block of any particular file is stored. By referring that, we'll go on check in that particular data node and locate the data what you are trying to read the actual contents from that particular data node, which is nothing but a system, and it will be sent to the user. This is what is essentially happening when we are trying to read a file. Thank you.